Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and welcome back to the continuing deep dive into the depths of Shadows of Brimstone. And this is going to be the final episode before the wrap-up. And this is just going to be a very brief episode on a few house rules that I play with. I don't play Shadows of Brimstone with a ton of house rules. I think the game plays pretty well as it is. There are a couple things that I do all the time. There is one house rule that I play sometimes if I have the space for it. And so let's go into that. The one rule that I use all the time when I play, actually there's two, is I always pool XP and pool gold and then divvy it out, hand it out at the end of a mission as equally as possible to each of the heroes, to each of the players. I find that that just makes the game faster. It eliminates some personal bookkeeping. There already is so much personal bookkeeping in this game with items and with stats and with keeping track of numbers that having to keep track, having to write down or keep a tally of XP and gold for us and for me, for my group and for me, it was never fun. So we just throw everything in like a pot and then hand it out at the end of the mission. Now that does somewhat dilute, make weaker some of the heroes who get XP bonuses for some of their actions or some of their special powers. But for us, that trade-off was never enough to not pull XP and gold. We just liked playing that way better. Another way that I and that my group always play is you cannot level up while on a mission. You have to either be, if you're playing Hex Crawl, you have to either be back in the town to hand in that mission or in the wilderness camping to level up. And then we take like a level up housekeeping, bookkeeping break. But doing that kind of stuff in the middle of a mission, for us, just the time limit just was never worth taking that break. So those are two things that I always play with. Another rule, and this will be probably the last thing we'll talk about in today's episode. This is going to be a very quick episode. And that is a kind of advanced exploration that I came up with. And that is a way to make the exploration in Shadows of Brimstone more like the exploration in Warhammer Quest or Darklight Memento Mori. So in standard Shadows of Brimstone, you are basically always moving forward. There is never any reason to backtrack. You will never really find any dead ends. You will never really have to make any decisions about turning left or right. Because as you are drawing your cards, as you are working your way through the map, and you are adding new tiles to your dungeon, you are drawing these exploration tokens. You are flipping those over. Usually you are looking for some kind of clue. And once you've found like 3 or 5 of these clues, then that room is your objective room. But this stack of exploration tokens that you are looking through is linear. And you will always just put that at the exit that you have chosen to go on. So once even though this tile might have 3 different doors, the other 2 doors that you didn't explore, those no longer matter because this stack of exploration tokens is always going to be at the end of the corridor that you are working on. So what you end up with is you end up with these long, just single corridor dungeons that never have any offshoots. And this is a good way to play the game if you are playing on a small table like my table in my gaming room here, because you can actually just get rid of the last couple tiles that you are on or that you have explored because there's really no reason to ever go back. So you're always moving forward. You're always just really concerned with the tile that you are on in standard Shadows of Brimstone rules. So I made up a set of house rules called Advanced Exploration, and it kind of simulates the exploration in Warhammer Quest. And so let's say that this was the first room that I had drawn and I had moved there. There are 3 possible exits. But of course, you would draw your exploration token, and that would tell you how many exits there are. So in this case, there are 2. So one of these is not going to have a door. Well, you would check the card here, and you would roll a d6, and I would roll to see which one of these is not an exit. So 3. So this one ahead of me is not an exit. Okay, so I would cap that off. Now, to simulate the fact that we don't know if we should go north or south, what I do is I take our exploration tokens and I divide those up between the 2 possible exits. Just like I would the dungeon cards in Warhammer Quest. So that way, now we have to make a choice. Are we going to go north or are we going to go south? Remember, most of the missions, you are trying to find these exclamation points, these clues. Well, if you need 2 more, there's a chance that maybe they won't be in this stack. And so as you start exploring north, let's say we've decided to go north, and we come to this room here. Again, this style of exploration does take up a lot more room. But let's say we came to this room here, and we drew this token here, okay? Well, now this has 2 doors. So let's say that this door here was there was no exit there. So then we would, again, we would divide these exploration tokens up by the remaining doors. So now we have another decision. We could come here, and as you can see, we're looking for that clue. Well, this would be a dead end. Whichever tiles would have these encounters, there are no clue tokens. So once we reach this tile, whatever it is, we have reached a dead end. Now we have to turn back and we have to go down the other passages. So at this point, once this happens, once you find a dead end and you haven't found your objective room, well, then you are considered to be backtracking. And this is a new phase that I had to create to make this house rule work. Because in Shadows of Brimstone, at the beginning of every turn, you are rolling 2d6 to hold back the darkness. Now, backtracking, that adds time that you are spent in the dungeon, and it adds more rolls. So there's a better chance that you might fail your hold back the darkness rolls. And that is one of the ways you can lose the game. So while you are backtracking, once you've reached a dead end, you are considered to be backtracking until you reach a tile that has an unexplored exit. You just move from tile to tile. So just imagine this being a tile, this being a tile, and this being a tile. You take your party, or you take one hero that represents your party, and you just move to the next tile. You don't actually do any kind of movement. This is a very kind of abstract rule. And then once you place your hero on that tile, you roll a d6. If you roll a 1, you are ambushed. You draw a proper threat, you deal with that ambush, and then you continue to backtrack to the next tile. You would roll a 1, nope, so no ambush on that backtracking. And then you would move to the center of your tile that has your unexplored exit. Now you're no longer backtracking. Now you're no longer in the backtracking phase. Now you're in your normal Shadows of Brimstone phase. You're rolling to hold back the darkness. You would move here. Then you would draw a new card to see what the next room was. You would reveal an encounter. Okay, still no clue. You would go to the next room. All right, so the next room, you would find 1 clue. But again, you're looking for that 3rd clue. Now you've only found 2. Again, you would backtrack until you've reached the tile that has an unexplored exit, and then you would continue moving in that direction. Well, maybe you found your last clue, so this would be your objective room. So in this way, there are reasons to backtrack. There are actual reasons to go left or right, and there are reasons, and this creates a much more interesting looking dungeon. However, it also takes up a lot more room. Now, let's say you found a gate and you were going into another world. What I do when I go into another world is I just take that stack of tokens and transfer that to the other world and start that process all over again. So the other world exploration in this, it ends up being a little smaller, just kind of like you're finding little pocket worlds. But we really enjoy this house rule because it just makes the exploration a little more meaningful. You're not just moving down a corridor, always pushing forward, working through this stack in a linear fashion. This stack gets divided, and then you have to make choices about which way to go. And so if you take a look here, I have these written down. So advanced exploration, divide and counter tokens among your exits. Heroes pick a route to explore. If a route does not contain your objectives, then you are in backtracking mode. Backtracking, party moves from tile to tile, no rolling for darkness. Each tile, roll a d6. On a 1, you are ambushed. Then resume normal movement and normal holding back the darkness once the first unexplored exit is revealed. So yeah, that's it. Those are basically the house rules that I play with. Of course, I add, things that are fun from hex crawl in here in kind of a modular fashion. You can pick whatever you want to use if you want to use those pushing and pulling or capturing rules and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I don't use a ton of house rules in Shadows of Brimstone. There's already so many things to keep track of that layering on a whole system of house rules would just make things even kind of more cumbersome, more fiddly than they already can be. So, all right, guys, well, this was the last content video for Shadows of Brimstone. I'm gonna come back tomorrow with a finale and one more giveaway for a deluxe enemy pack. And yeah, that'll be it. That'll be wrapping up the deep dive into the depths of Shadows of Brimstone. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.